now let's go to the next section, Confucian politics. As we see above, the exemplary family relations of ruling class would radiate their magical power over the society as a whole. This is the typical view of Confucian politics as advocating a government by example. When the Duke of Shi boasts that in his country there was a man called Upright Gong. His father stole a sheep, and Gong bore witness against him. Confucius responds as follows, quote, "In my country, the upright are different from this. A father will screen his son, and a son will screen his father," end quote. This dialogue does not show that Confucius approves of stealing, but rather that the sacred familial ties are of fundamental importance. The entire sacred fabric of Li and Ren depend on it, and it is this fabric which sustains society. Li, as exemplified in familial ties, works to provide a model of the whole social mechanism. It can also apply to political realm. Confucius says of the ancient royal ancestral sacrifice, the Di, that, quote, "If one knew its explanation, it would be as easy to rule the world as to point to this." He thereupon pointed to the palm of his hand, end quote. From this, we see that ritual power could be used to drive political engine. Of course, this guiding principle Confucius got from the Duke of Zhou. Although Confucius pursued a politics based on Ren and Li, he did not object to the use of force in political struggle. He taught us that when the Tao prevails, the Son of Heaven is responsible not only for Li and music, but also for just punitive expeditions as well. The Son of Heaven has the legitimate authority to punish unprincipled feudal rulers, as well as to quell the barbarians within and outside the civilized world. Unfortunately, in an age without the Tao, unauthorized wars were waged among the states of that world, and the feudal princes are morally obliged to undertake just wars. A high official of the neighboring state of Qi killed his rightful ruler. Confucius called upon the Duke of Lu to carry out a punitive expedition to punish the killer. The three usurping families controlled the Lu state, and they refused prudently. Confucius recognized the need for a military establishment as one of the three requirements of any government. That is, food, weapons, and the faith of the people. He advocated the justified use of arms in certain circumstances. Confucius insisted that a government is judged good when it can cause the people to behave on the basis of internalized moral sentiments. However, there always existed an element of society not accessible to control by moral force. This could be seen from the statement in the passage on the rectification of names that, quote, when li and music do not flourish, punishments and penalties will not be appropriate, end quote. In a society where li do not flourish, one cannot expect most men to be guided by inner moral sentiments. Even people with a potential for behaving on the basis of an inner moral pilot would have their behaviors governed by punishments. Punishments apply only to those who are clearly not amenable to the influence of li and music. So far, we see that although Confucius gave a model or an example of governing simply by fulfilling his proper family role, he aimed to serve in government. And serving in the government means more than performing a ceremonial role. Ceremony and example influence people only when certain environmental preconditions have been established. Noble people may succeed in maintaining their own moral integrity even in highly adverse circumstances. But the same is not true for the ordinary people, who have neither the opportunity nor the capacity to achieve full self-cultivation. As long as people endure an environment of oppression and suffering, they cannot respond to the example of their superiors. Those people of the ruling class who prove incapable of learning may also be said to be objects of an unwholesome environment. It seems that the assurance of favorable environment is an indispensable precondition for the moralization of the whole society. The shaping of the social environment is the responsibility of those who rule. Confucius relied on the capacities of an ethical vanguard to achieve control within a normative system. This was nothing new in history. Confucius already saw this actualized in past human experience. The ethical vanguard, when put in a position of authority, would employ their virtues and wisdom to shape the society. When a good society is created, ordinary people are capable of developing their moral autonomy in a favorable environment. However, there seems to exist a tension between Confucian ethics and Confucian politics. The great statesman Guanzhong of the state of Qi managed to create the hegemonic collective security system through his genius. This hegemonic system brought temporary peace and stability to the civilized world and managed to stop the total disintegration of the Zhou dynasty. But Guanzhong's personal morality had little to praise. As a minister, he was extravagant and presumptuous. He built a screen before his gate. This practice was the ritual prerogative only of rulers of states. Confucius said, quote, if Guanzhong knew li, who does not know li? Unquote. Although Confucius recognized that Guanzhong had grave moral defects and his strategy of maintaining peace was based on the sanction of force and diplomatic guile rather than moral force, he could not refrain from defending Guanzhong against his simple-minded disciples. When Zilu asked, quote, "Was Guanzhong not lacking in Ren?" Confucius' reply was that by virtue of his statesmanship, Guanzhong had been able to convene the rulers of the states without the use of war chariots. Quote, "When Guanzhong was the minister of Duke Huan, he became leader of all the feudal princes, uniting and bringing order to the world. Even now, we enjoy the benefit of his rule. Were it not for Guanzhong, we might be wearing our hair loose and our clothes buttoned on the left like the barbarians." Unquote. Another quote, "What do you expect from him? The petty fidelity of ordinary people who go off and drown themselves in ditches and drains without anyone knowing about it?" Unquote. Here we see Confucius judged a great statesman in terms of the petty moral standards which govern ordinary mortals in their obscure interpersonal relations. It is obvious that there is a deep tension between a concept of personal morality based on purity of motive and intent, and a concern with the good political results achieved by a statesman of great talent but little personal virtue. To this, my interpretation is that in an age of ritual decline, both ethics and politics were in chaos due to lack of normative order. Facing this situation, Confucius had no choice but to take a pragmatist view. This is not ideal ethical and political state in Confucius' eyes. The tension between ethics and politics can be removed only when a normative order is established on ritual principle. In an ideal normative realm, ethics and politics can work organically. The underlying working principle is Confucius' ritual mechanism. Confucius' utopia is a society transfigured by a life sacred and beautiful ritual in which all classes would participate. Okay, now we have to conclude our discussion of Confucius' philosophy. Our discussion focuses on three parts: philosophy of Li, philosophy of Ren, and Confucius' ethics and politics. Confucius' philosophy is consistent and systematic. And this we will see more clearly when we talk about Mencius and Xunzi. They pushed Confucian philosophy to a full development. This lecture contains lots of challenging content. I strongly recommend you to read Chapter 3 of Schwartz's The World of Thought in Ancient China. And you are expected to raise questions as you read along. My teaching assistants and I will be happy to respond to your questions. Thank you.